Thanks so much again for actually taking the time to sit with me and do this short and sweet PDM Q&A. Q, of course, standing for quarantine. Trying to keep it light here, but let's dig in, shall we?
Absolutely, I'm down for it.
Okay, so the reason for this whole thing is we've been getting a lot of demand for PDM. I personally think it's because a lot of our clients knew what PDM could do, but now that they're experiencing this awful worst case scenario for file management, the perspective has really just become more profound. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Since now it's pretty much government mandated that most of us work from home, we still would like to have access to our important documents and files to be able to work on them, as that's definitely very important. Customers are asking a lot about PDM because collaborative file sharing is now more difficult with this whole working from home, working remotely scenario and such.
Right. Yeah, I think we're all experiencing this unprecedented circumstance, and we've just been stripped the luxury of being able to walk down the hall and go into somebody's office and say, hey, is that assembly done? Where's the latest version of this or that?
Exactly. And it is extremely unfortunate, but it also magnifies the need for file management.
I'm actually really glad, sorry, I'm like jumping in and interrupting, but I'm really glad that
No
you used
problem.
that word, magnifies, because that's really the right word here. Can you just dig into that, how this scenario has kind of just magnified the need?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. File sharing, collaboration, and keeping your documentation in a secure area has always been an important facet of any organization, every company. But now that users mostly are working from home, connecting to other people is a little bit more difficult and time consuming. And ensuring that your data isn't overwritten is definitely a real concern, and a valid one at that. Network shares, Dropbox, all of that definitely becomes more critical. But PDM can do a much better job at ensuring the organization of your files because of the plethora of options it offers.
So what are actually the plethora of options here?
Sure. So let's dive into a couple of them. After doing so many implementations and services, I've come to know a lot of these different tools. So big one is to be able to work offline. PDM allows you to be able to do that. It's a capability just from any client. You can also use remote access to your vault if you're away from your company network through VPN, like Cisco AnyConnect. And then probably a new one that a lot of our customers are actually adopting now is actually hosting their vault in the cloud. So you can see how accessible that can be.
That's awesome. And I guess let's dig into, I remember you having a discussion with me about VPN and how it could actually provide a little bit of relief when you're working offline with it because of your Wi-Fi connection. And I'm probably saying that completely wrong and out of sorts, but I think there was a really good nugget there. So if you don't mind kind of just explaining that whole process.
No, of course, you hit the nail on the head. So what some people don't know, especially with using VPN, they can say that they have a very strong internet connection, but they're noticing pretty significant delays when accessing their vault through VPN. And a common example of that was with Cisco AnyConnect, and it's a very versatile tool. But you also have to understand that Cisco AnyConnect or most VPN softwares don't actually just connect to your office that maybe 10, 15 miles away. It actually goes to a server in a different state, most likely Atlanta, and then comes back to your office and then back to you. So there is delay in that. So it is a common source of delays with working through VPN.
And so then what's the workaround?
So a very common workaround is actually kind of doing it in bursts. So what I have seen and people use is that they'll connect to their office via VPN in the morning. Like let's say you're just making a cup of coffee and stuff like that. You'll connect to your office via VPN. And then what you'll do is you will grab the files you need via checking them out. And then once that is the case, all you simply have to do from the client that PDM offers you is just work offline. Then you don't even need the VPN anymore. It's as good as working locally. So that is definitely a way to go about it.
That's awesome. And then you're your roommate or your partner or your kids can continue to stream Netflix uninterrupted because you won't be using that connection anymore.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's really interesting to think that PDM could, again, just provide some type of internet relief because, like you said, most of us, as if I am on PDM, but most
Oh,
of
come
us
on.
experience delays with PDM. So of course I have another question, duh.
Mhm.
A ton of our customers who listen in on this interview or read along, because I do plan on transcribing this,
Mhm.
might be thinking something like, okay, yeah, I knew about PDM. I definitely understand it. I think that it's go time. I want to get that right now. But maybe they're thinking, like, is that even possible? Because so many of us are working remote, Design Point, right? Being one of those
Mhm.
companies. Do they have to wait until after, things, the circumstance is gone? Maybe is the urgency going to be the same? What can you tell those people that are like, okay, yeah, I get it. I need PDM. How do I get started?
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic question. So let me tell you, as someone who has implemented PDM very, very frequently, I am still doing that. I'm still providing those
Mm-hmm.
services for Design Point because we've taken a lot of measures to actually provide those services remotely. Essentially, what we would do is that we would need to have connections to your production environment, like a server to host PDM, and then consequently the connections to the clients to make sure everything is installed correctly. We can facilitate that remotely. So the ramp up time actually really isn't affected too greatly at all because of this pandemic. We are making measures to make sure that our customers still get the same amount of services and same amount of care, even though we can't physically be there on site.
Well, that's great to hear. I think a lot of customers are going to enjoy hearing that. I do want to redirect you for a
Mhm.
quick second. And let's just go back to our existing PDM customers, because I feel like in servicing those clients is where we're discovering all the opportunity and the value that PDM is bringing during this time.
Mhm.
For instance, right, with the VPN, right, that came out of you speaking to a lot of our clients and just seeking to understand what's happening and how you can help and how you can support them. So the workaround there is, of course, going offline. But I've also heard you mention something called PDM Web 2, and
Mhm.
it's me, so that's about all I know about PDM Web 2, just the name. So would you be able to explain that? Because I believe that that is another solution, correct?
Absolutely, yes. I'm glad you mentioned it too. So, for those of you who have invested in PDM Pro, you actually have access to the software called PDM Web 2. Basically, what it is it allows you to access your vault through a web browser. So, for instance, I was actually able to access my own vault via my phone, and you can do this with a tablet, netbook, or anything like that. So long as you have internet connection, you can actually access your vault via a web browser. This is also really useful too for different hardware scenarios as well, because let's say, for instance, you're a Mac user. Safari still can access it. So this is good for a lot of people who are, let's say, they just need to put in files really quickly, like taking pictures at a customer site, more or less over the end user and stuff like that.
I see where we're going. Gotcha. That's like incredible. I think that's a game changer for a
Mhm.
lot of what we're experiencing. I also think it's important to kind of just home in on that and that last bit where you mentioned something about, who's really accessing the environment and how they're leveraging it, because there are definitely other people within the organization, not just end users, who might be approving designs, or they might be doing templates or just pushing things over the fence, right?
hmm Absolutely. You couldn't be more correct. There are like admins, secretaries, owners, and a bunch
Right.
of other people in your organization. It's just not just your engineering team. So PDM wants to facilitate a collaborative environment from every department. That's like kind of the main goal. So, we have customers who have really tapped into the PDM functionalities that do the reporting on there. They do like time off requests there, a lot of actually procedural things there. So it is a big deal to be able to access that environment
Yeah.
as easily as possible.
That's awesome. So how do you know, again, I'm a customer, I have PDM. How do you know if you have PDM Web 2? You said that you needed to have PDM Pro.
That is correct. You need to have PDM Pro. And to basically see if you have Web 2 or not, please just feel free to give us a call and have us take a look at your environment. We can tell you. More technically, you can definitely look at IIS, but that's usually readily accessible on your server. But if you have any doubts, just don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can tell you if you have it or not.
Okay, so clear call to action to our viewers. Give us a call if you're not sure. Got it. Okay, so far, we've learned about some great options for working offline. We've shared some nuggets just in our experience with dealing with our own PDM customers. All the while, hopefully, we're showcasing just the value of PDM to everyone who's listening. Maybe people who haven't even been evaluating PDM until right now. Am I missing anything? Is there anything else that you kind of want to make sure that you let our customers know?
No, I think you got all of it. I basically from this, I want, people to walk away and understand that PDM can help expedite and simplify their processes now more than ever. For instance, both standard and pro, PDM standard and pro, can facilitate notifications between users for certain things that reach certain stages and workflows. This is useful because, again, as we've been talking about pretty much the entirety of this interview, that we don't have the luxury to go walk to our colleague and tell them certain things about like a specific file we're both working on. PDM can not only just facilitate that dialogue, it can actually automate those notifications by sending them emails through the workflows as well, and where a project is in its lifetime. So just something to keep in mind, PDM standard can facilitate those notifications whenever you're logged into the vault. So you'll get them as regular notifications like you would anywhere in Windows. Pro actually takes that a step further and allows you to get email. So you don't even have to be logged into your vault. You can just get an email on your phone. And you're always up to date, regardless if you're logged in or at your work machine. You know what's happening.
That's awesome. Okay, so I think that's an excellent way for us to wrap up. Getting here, PDM can and should be used to just manage standard procedures within an organization. Just going to reiterate, I believe that we've always, understood the value, specifically the strength that PDM had for file management. But I think just during these circumstances, we're learning more about another huge strength and quintessential piece of PDM, and that's really the streamlining of communication. It can be a little challenging to speak to every person in your company right now when everyone is suddenly and unexpectedly working remotely. So I think there's so much there, and I hope our customers look into it a little bit, or if they have some questions that they reach out. But I think that's it. I want to thank you for your time and your insight. It means a lot.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. And then to our customers, of course, again, hope you found this useful. It's our absolute pleasure to support and serve you. Now more than ever, we're ready to show up, even if that's just virtually via recordings or Teams or whatever. And we're just really ready to be the partner that you need. We're here for you. We're listening. We're definitely open to learning about each other and leaning into each other during this time. And we're confident that we're going to come out stronger. So thanks again.
Thank you.